Okay, so we've sawn our piece of wood to size, we've planed it nice and flat. You might notice it's not planed in the middle there, but that's going to get carved away anyway. Lovely flat area here for our spindle deck. And the other thing we did, we've gone the opposite way on the grain direction, so you can see either way when we've finished.
Yeah, that's going to be really interesting actually. So we've still got it the way up that you suggested. So this would have been the bark side somewhere. The bark would have been something like that.
Yep.
So we'll be carving down into that, but the grain is running along this way rather than kind of front to back.
Yeah, because like we said, we haven't got the extra part on the back that needs the extra strength. So I've drawn a line down the middle. I'm going to follow...
What do you call that?
Centre line.
Nice.
I'm going to follow it right round so that when it comes to drawing the leg angles on the bottom, I know that I'm referencing from the same line.
Oh, that's a good idea. Do you want a little square to take it down the sides?
Yes, please.
I'll grab one. There we go.
Thank you, Bob.
So do you want both sides to be perfectly flat? You've flattened both sides on this, haven't you?
Yes, I've flattened both sides. I mean, you end up with a wobbly bit of wood that starts driving you mad if it's not a little bit flat, just how it sits on the deck.
Yeah,
and you're
so
going to
it's
be
worth flattening.
I think so, because you're going to be drilling into it. You're going to be using a bevel gauge on the surface. If it's not a flat surface, your angle won't be right.
Yeah, maybe a good way to get into using planes.
Yes.
I mean, it's not crazy hectic joinery. This isn't cabinet making.
No.
So if you're a tiny bit off, it's not going to be the worst thing that's happened. But like I said, it's in the book, Flattening a Board. We've got it for a kind of chopping board. And there's some really useful techniques in it. So nice.
One centre line. So I'm going to line the centre line up on our plan. Is this a downloadable PDF, is it?
Yes, so we've got this downloadable on the website. There'll be a link with the video. It's also in the book, and it says, you know, photocopy me at 396% or something like that, because obviously the book isn't this big. And so you were saying that actually you wouldn't necessarily have to have it printed the whole size.
Nope.
You could just have half and then flip it over.
Yeah, it's symmetrical. So, first thing I want to do is just draw around the shape.
I suppose once we've marked this through, it would be sensible for us to just go through why we have these bits in different places. It's really helpful just using a template, but I think it's just good for you to understand why bits and bobs are in different positions. So obviously we're doing holes from the top surface. So obviously you have a certain number of things that come out the top, which will be the spindles, the back posts, and the arm posts at the front. And then we're also drilling for the legs from the top, but we'll ream them back from the other side later on. So you're drawing around the outside.
Yeah.
Do we drill it whilst it's still a big square plank so it's easier to clamp or not?
Yes, makes a lot of sense. You can even start to hollow it out as well.
Right, yeah,
and
that's a good idea.
Other good idea, of course, is this is your flat plane, so you know you can put your bevel gauge anywhere on it while it's flat.
Ah, nice.
Going to mark the holes, just going to take something, you take a nail, a compass. We're using a pair of dividers and we're just going to transfer these crosses into the board.
Hedgehog spine.
Yeah.
It's what they traditionally use in old Britain.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. Based on fact.
Based on fact.
So you're just transferring the red crosses, which are the actual centre holes of the centres of the holes.
Yep.
What about the sight lines? How do you transfer those?
Because I can do that with this as well. I was just thinking that, because normally I've got half of one, I'll just do that with a pencil if you're using half. But
okay.
I'm going to carve it away.
Yeah.
So I might as well just pop my divider through it. Let's just check we've got all those. So we've marked all the holes through the seat plan. Now all we need to do is remove the seat plan and draw the sight lines straight onto the piece of wood.
Great. Now, so you were saying earlier that you could get this printed out on fancy stuff. What was the fancy stuff called?
Mylar.
Mylar, yeah. It's
which
like
is very
really tough, plasticky, see-through template stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good stuff.
You could totally make your own templates out of tracing paper as well.
Or, yeah, just thin piece of plywood's good too with these drilled in.
Great. Oh, can't see any of it.
Right.
Right.
Make sure when you do this part that you end up using the right sight lines or your chair will look very odd.
Yeah, so make sure the lines are the same as on the template.
Yeah.
Don't just do dot to dot on random dots. Okay. So these are the ones, the centre points are, these are the leg holes.
Yep.
Because obviously we've still got the front of the seat here, so that's where your legs would be coming out. And we've got one hole there.
So you will have a little kite shape there if you've used the right ones to make your lines. There we go.
Okay, great. And so what else do we need to mark? I suppose you guys probably can't see, but obviously we do have these little pin pricks.
Yeah.
And that's great because not only is it something you can see, but it's something that you can put the lead screw of your drill into. So it does really help with accuracy. Pointing it through like that. Okay, so that's it pretty much marked out, right? We can just crack on and start drilling. So we'll get our drilling stuff and get set up for that.
Yep.
Okay, so we've got some F-clamps. It's probably worth pointing out, actually, the workbench that we're using here is one of the ones that we talk about in the book, where it has this slot in the centre that enables us to transform it into a pole lathe. So that's quite handy. It's also quite handy just for clamping. So you can put your F-clamp in the slot, which is quite helpful. And also, what have you got there? That's
a holdfast. Yeah,
so those can kind of be popped in these little holes. So it's quite helpful having these holes in your workbench. We'll probably do some videos on doing a workbench at some point, but like I said, it is in the book as well. Okay, so you're going to clamp it up.
Yep.
Where are you clamping it?
I'm just going to clamp on any of the waste wood around the outside.
Yeah.
Just because if it leaves a mark, it's on a piece of wood that's getting cut away later.
Great. It's not a very flat workbench because we're using an old one that's warped quite a lot. It's quite a nice thing actually when you've got a nice solid wood bench like this to every now and again get your planes out and flatten it.
Definitely.
Most modern joiners just use plywood, I think, on top, make sure it's perfectly flat. But the old school ways are great as well. You don't want to be planing plywood.
No.
Okay, so your setup.
Yes.
What about a bit of waste wood underneath for the holes? Is that important?
No, a couple of reasons. If you do fire through and it breaks, you're widening the hole so much on the bottom that you'll lose that break.
Right,
But
okay.
I'm just going to feel for the lead screw and come back from the other side. Go back, drill from underneath.
Great, perfect.
Messing around.
Okay, so the important thing, so we're going to do leg holes first.
Yep.
And it's probably worth just pointing out that if we're drilling into the top, then we want the legs, we actually have them that way around, don't we? Legs splaying outwards. So that means that you're going to be drilling at that angle.
Yes.
Often people...
It's very easy to
get it the wrong way around.
Because you've drawn the line to that mark there.
Yeah.
Something's
You could even, what if you even just got the pencil?
Put an arrow.
Just like drill that way,
Yeah.
drill that way, drill that way, drill that way.
Not a bad idea at all.
There we go. Right, I'll pass over to Robin because I don't really know what I'm talking about, if I'm being completely honest.
My Bevel gauge is set to the 14 degrees that is on the plans.
We call it a sliding bevel in the book.
A sliding bevel. That's
what's the difference? What's a bevel gauge?
That's what they're called.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a northern thing.
No, it's just wrong. So I've taken a tri-square and drawn a 90-degree angle to the sight line, and I'm going to carefully place the tri-square on there with its heel directly above the line.
Nice.
Make sure you're not drilling into your lovely bench.
Great.
Which we are.
So that square is essentially changing a single line into, it's enabling you to have a plane, I guess.
Yeah.
Because you're no longer just thinking about one line, but you're thinking about a whole plane that's created with, imagine, I suppose, a sheet of glass. If a sheet of glass was coming straight up from that line, then this edge of the square is lined up with it. So it's just giving you a clearer guide than just the basic sight line.
Triangulation.
And so where do you get this idea from? Is that a normal thing?
I learned this one from Curtis Buchanan.
Right, nice.
Along with
He's a man with many good ideas.
Oh,
yeah.
So we'll show you how to do it with the power drill and how to do it with the bracing bit, I think.
Yes, okay, so let's just show them exactly what you're doing. So you're drilling into the hole. Where is the hole marked? There, okay.
Yes.
So we've got a little cross there. And obviously the lead screw goes into the little centre point that you've made.
Yep. Now, if this was your finished surface, you would not want to start an auger bit at this angle. But if the front of our hole is a little bit messy, it doesn't matter because it's going to get carved away anyway.
Right, okay. And you can see Robin's done some test holes just to check that the drill's working okay. It's always handy having a bit of scrap around to do that kind of thing in.
It really is.
Definitely not a sharp drill bit. That one, I'm not sure it's been used very frequently.
I gave it a tickle before
I
used
used
it. Yeah. It's just got a tiny little burr.
I thought you needed to use a file for a sharpening.
Well, it helps, but you can use a little plate as well.
Tickling is for making people laugh.
So, my sliding bevel is set up perfectly along the sight line. I've got my 90-degree tri-square. So I'm going to use these just to line my drill up before I even start drilling. There's a hole there, the line here, these two need to be parallel. And also, we need to make sure that we're upright against the tri-square.
So it's really helpful having that tri-square in position.
Yeah.
The sliding bevel's probably the tricky bit now, isn't it? And actually normally, well, for a lot of things that we do, we'd actually get someone sighting from the side. So
Yes.
if you come and look from the side, now if you imagine I'm coming across here to be able to sight it for Robin. Now, if at some point I can see it's no longer parallel to the sliding bevel, I can ask him to lean it either, well, I would tend to use the words away or towards.
Yeah.
So at the moment, he's pretty good. He could do with going slightly away. Oh, that's too much. Slightly towards. And then you can have a fun game kind of going back and forth with that, to be honest. But yeah, that angle is pretty important. So it's worth getting right. And first time I'd ever heard about Windsor chair making was from Mike Abbott's book, Green Woodwork. And I think in there, he recommends using mirrors.
Yes, yeah.
Is that a normal thing? Have you ever tried it with mirrors?
Yeah, Mike has this wonderful thing in his workshop where he's got a big mirror on that wall and a big mirror on that wall at 90 degrees.
I always
And
just
he can
assumed that was so that he could look at his front and his rear at the same time, but no?
No. So
We might need to phone him up.
And apologise. Right, so I'm quite happy that that's level with the bevel gauge. Try sliding bevel. That's good and upright. So we're going to start drilling. If you start right, once you're in, it's very difficult to alter the angle it's going at anyway. Right.
So the inclination is always going to tend for the drill to straighten normally as you're drilling.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind, and you might need to just adjust to the sliding bevel slightly. But it's really the first centimetre or so that goes in that you can adjust to it.
Yeah. So this is a good chance to make sure you are also nice and upright. So I'm just going to sight it from behind the drill and look at the tri-square against the auger bit. And I am it's so close, it's just not worth mentioning. No, that's good. So I'm just going to go ahead and drill on through now. Keep checking for the lead screw every now and again. There it is. I'm just going to pop round the other side.
And so this is just to get you through when you're reaming back from the other side, because you'll be widening that hole. It doesn't really matter as long as it's not made too much of a mess the other side. And so the hole that we've drilled in for the legs here is 5/8, which is 16 mil.
Yep.
And that is just a little bit smaller than the top of our tenon as it comes through the seat, right?
Yes.
So we want a hole that's not so small that you're going to have to ream forever, but you don't want it bigger than what you're going to ream to. Give yourself a little bit of leeway. You'll widen it all the way up through.
Yeah.
So we'll have all of these measurements on the PDF plan. We'll go into more detail when we actually do the reaming, but the holes that we're drilling for the seat 5/8, which is about 16 mil for the legs coming through.
Yes.
So let's have a look now at using a brace and bit. So we've got one leg hole done, so we can do another leg hole. Is it any different with the brace? It's just a different technique, right?
Yeah, it's just whether people have got a brace and bit or an electric drill. You can get more power into a brace, but I don't know how important that is with drilling holes in a seat.
I suppose it's more important when we're using the reamer later. It gives you more control, but
A lot more, yeah.
yeah. Okay, so let's get this hole drilled with the brace.
So again, we take our right angle here, draw a right angle next to our sight line. Okay, so I just want to double check I've got the correct angle on my sliding bevel. If you knock it or drop it, always check the angle. So to do that, you need a nice straight edge that you can use as a reference. I draw 90 degrees.
So this is just a bit of shop bought plain wood, so planed wood, sorry. So it's got a nice square edge and nice flat surface, and it's obviously just an offcut that you can just use to help you set up. It doesn't matter if it's plywood or MDF or what. And then on the plans, the front leg's going in at 14 degrees and the back legs are 20, aren't they?
Yes, it is worth us mentioning that is 14 degrees away from vertical.
Yes. Yeah. So that would be 104
yeah.
or 110 for the back legs. You could even draw on it. So is that's the back legs, is it?
Front.
That's the front. So we're going to do another front leg now.
Yeah.
So you could even just write next to it so that you don't get confused. Front leg.
You could, or just write the number on it and keep this to use as a bevel buddy.
Bevel buddy.
A bevel buddy is what the Americans
Everyone
call
needs
them.
a bevel buvvy.
We do.
Buvvy? Buzzy.
So, same again.
Great. So you're making sure that you're obviously drilling outwards because the legs want to splay outwards.
Yep.
And you pop your square on the line.
Yep.
And away we go.
Away we go.
So it's a 16 millimetre hole that we're drilling for the legs. which is the size of the top of the tenon. So the smallest part of our tenon is 16 millimeters, which is about 5/8 of an inch.
When you were trying to check your angles, it's a good idea to just move and watch your two surfaces come together. So I'm looking at the straight up of the tri-square there, and I'm watching the edge of that, and as I move towards the drill bit, I can see it line up perfectly against the side of the bit. So I know that's right, and those two are parallel.
I suppose the only difference really with the brace that I think a lot of beginners make the mistake of is that you need a special drill bit from the olden days that will fit into a brace. Do people make
Yeah, it's called a four. Is it called a 4-pin chuck?
Right.
And they will get hold of a modern. They'll get hold of a round bit or a hexagonal bit.
Right. So when we've drilled this hole, we'll take out the bit and show you.
Yeah. Now we do adjust this hole when we're reaming. So if you feel you've drilled your hole slightly off, you've got nothing to panic about because you do get a chance to adjust it later.
There's quite a lot of leeway when you're widening the hole, basically.
Yeah. It's actually another advantage of tapering holes. You get to really check your angles as you go.
And so you're not left-handed, but Robin's spinning the brace, turning the brace with his left hand.
Yep.
A lot of people claim that you've got more strength in your left hand to turn it,
Yep.
and better place trying that way around. So you can see what works for you.
Oh, so yeah, whatever's comfortable.
Or just use Makita. And so what happens? I think you should just plough all the way through this time because I don't want to have to watch you drill back the other way. There we go.
Straight through. There'll be a bit of tear out, but we'll lose that as soon as we start reaming.
Tear out is fine.
Yeah, minimal.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, so when you finish drilling those two holes, it's always a good idea to just take the angle away so that you don't walk off and come back and drill a hole at the wrong angle.
Yes, great. Good tip.
Yeah, but we're doing it straight away. So we'll get our back leg angle set, which on the plans I believe is 20 degrees from vertical or 110 degrees.
Great.
And then, let's just turn that a little bit.
How many times have you drilled the angle wrong, do you reckon?
Never. I'm a professional.
It is one of the good things about reamed holes is that they're reasonably easy to fix because you can glue a peg into a reamed hole quite easily.
Yes.
And then adjust the angle quite well.
Yes.
Just something that's a lot harder with a straight hole, I think.
Yeah, the easiest ones to fix are the blind ones. You can just whack a dowel into a blind hole, glued, drill exactly into the same site again. And once you've done that, you're covering the dowel. No one will ever see it.
Amazing.
It's clever. So, again, we'll set on 90 degrees.
So these guys probably don't need to see this bit, do they?
No.
But you may as well crack on. And we'll see you guys in a bit. Same deal, we've just changed the angle on the sliding bevel. And we'll do these two holes going out the back of the seat, and we'll see you in a sec. Okay, so we said we'd have a quick look at the difference in the drill bit. The main thing being really that these ones fit into the braces more readily, and you can get different jaws for different types of bits, or different bits for different types of jaws. So the ones that you'll have for an electric drill will have a straight shaft like that. Some of them are hexagonal, some of them are round.
Yep.
And the ones for the braces tend to have these tapered ends. I guess, is there much of a difference? I suppose This one we were saying is better for clearing the shavings because it's got a larger gap between the helix. I'm not certain. Maybe this one drills slightly straighter because it's got more surface contact.
Maybe.
What's the other? So the other drill bits you got there are Forstner bits.
Yeah, these need to be used on the fast setting on your drill, or they don't cut properly. These cut excellent holes. They're slightly harder to sight down because they're not as long, but you can always put them into an extension. And you just have to be careful that it doesn't travel through the hole backwards and forwards, because these have got contact with the hole all the way down. You can wiggle your way through a little bit and cause yourself a bit of problem.
So those are actually designed for pillar drills,
They
right?
are.
So pillar driller will always drill straight.
Yeah.
And that may be an option for some people. If you've got a workshop set up, then you may well be thinking, well, I can just put jig on my
if you've got a pillar drill with an adjustable platform on it, get it used. Really good way of drilling holes in a chair.
Okay, so what size are the arm posts going in?
12mm.
So is that front and back?
Yes.
Right, okay. So they're significantly smaller than the legs. Obviously the legs take a lot more force.
Yep.
So they need to have thicker tenon for strength, basically. And then at some point when we drill the spindles at the back,
Yep.
are they going to be 12?
10mm.
10 mil. Okay, great. All right, well, let's get these out your way and then we can get those drilled. Great, okay, so we're doing 12 mil hole for front arm post, and this is splaying out at 14 degrees.
Yes.
So similar to the front legs. And we're doing it square to the line between the back post and the front post, the arm post.
Correct.
So we've got our arm post here, back post at the back, and we will be doing it splayed at 90 degrees to that.
Yes, with a 14-degree lean to accommodate your body.
Great.
Posts are straight up, getting in and out of the chair is a little bit clunky. And it makes for a more comfortable chair.
Yeah, and you do get captain's chairs without splay, I think, but I think they tend to be much bigger.
Yes.
So ours is a bit of a bodge, right? We're saying let's have quite a big splay on the front, possibly mostly so I can get inside it. And then we've got the back post and the spindles vertical.
Yep.
Now that's definitely a compromise, and we'll explain more about that later when we come to the crest and the arms. But all the other joinery on the top, we're just going to be doing straight in. This is the only one with splay on it. And 14 degrees, I think is that fairly normal for an arm post?
Between 15 and 17 degrees.
Right.
We're at a very similar angle here.
Okay, so what we're doing at the front is pretty normal. The weird stuff on our chair is more round the back, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Okay, so again, just make sure that you're definitely drilling in the right direction when you're doing this.
Yes.
Arm posts want to be splaying outwards as they're coming away from the seat top.
Yeah.
And obviously, we're using the same taper throughout the chair to try and minimise the amount of kit that you have. We'll go into that much more detail when we're fitting and reaming the holes and fitting the tapered tenons. But the reason why we're doing a 12 mil hole is just because we're going to have a smaller tenon than we have for the legs.
And that's that done. We'll go and do the same on the other side.
Great. Okay, so now we want to do the back posts.
Yes.
And we're not using the sliding bevel anymore. So we'll pop that away.
So these last 4 holes are all vertical.
And we've done this really to try and keep it a little bit simpler.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Some of the American chairs I make, these next few holes, quite complicated.
It's pretty normal, I think, on a complicated chair to have each of these holes coming out on different sight lines.
Oh, yeah.
At different angles.
Yeah, yeah.
So 90 degrees is really easy to check the angle because you can just put the 90 degree all the way around it. Just make sure you don't have shavings on top of your tri-square. So it's a little bit easier, I think.
Yes.
Okay, and then we'll just get the other back post done and we can move on to the spindle deck.
There's a little 90. Excellent. So those are all in at 90 degrees. 3 more holes to drill, 10 millimetres, all at 90 degrees. Right, I've changed my drill bit for these last 3 holes. The reason we're going down to such a small size is because once we've reamed them, they're going to be quite a lot wider. The bigger the hole we start with, the wider they're going to be here, and it just looks nice to have them a bit smaller than the ones next to them.
And that doesn't need it, does it? The back posts are what's providing all the strength, really.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a different drill bit. It doesn't have a lead screw.
Lip and spur.
And I suppose, so the thing that's significantly different about a lip and spur compared to one of these auger bits is the lead screw, I think. The lead screw does help kind of draw it through.
Yes.
It's something you've got to be careful with on an electric drill. If it's going really fast, that lead screw can really drag the drill bit through. It's actually quite helpful on a brace to have a lead screw because you don't then have to push down, it kind of drags the drill bit through.
Yeah.
What I would say is probably on small holes, you don't have to be quite so fussy, do you? I mean, we don't need to worry because we're reaming them.
Exactly.
But on a small hole, any kind of twist drill is probably going to be fine. What I would recommend is not using the flat wood bits.
Yes.
Because the flat bits, they're fine, you know, chomping through really soft softwoods.
Yeah.
And for kind of rough work, first fit carpentry kind of stuff.
Yes, I don't think they're designed for seasoned hardwoods.
And for bigger holes in seasoned hardwoods, having this kind of nicker and this chisely bit, the lip, we call that a lip, something like that, they're kind of quite efficient. And I suppose the real beauties from the olden days, and unfortunately there's no one clever enough to make them anymore.
Oh yeah.
There's these ones. Ooh.
Yeah.
So bullnose bits, or sure there's another word for these.
Gedge pattern, Cook's pattern.
Yeah, gedge. I think gedge are just wings. They
Yes,
don't come all the way
and
around.
Cook's.
But they have the same effect. They're just maybe just not as strong.
Yeah, you don't need as much torque with these because as these hit the wood, they are scooping like a gouge.
Yes.
Whereas this type of auger, Jennings pattern, I believe that's called,
Yeah.
is like it cuts a circle and a chisel cuts this way around, whereas you've got a scoop. And if you've ever tried to take a piece of wood with a with a curved gouge compared to a chisel, it's a very different cut.
Yeah.
Lovely drill bits those. If you can ever find small ones of those,
Send them my way.
send them my way if they've not been sharpened on the outside. Longer drill bits are your friend as well. Much easier to keep a whole edge lined up against a straight edge, and it's just a little short bit. There's less margin for error.
Totally. Yeah. That's very significant.
Look at
actually.
that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can actually touch that up to there before it starts spinning. I wouldn't have it touching when it's spinning.
But yeah, it's going to be so much more accurate.
Yeah.
Right, we'll get these holes drilled and we'll see you in a sec. Great. Okay, so let's just have a quick recap and think about what we've done. So the first thing we did was we drilled in the 4 holes for our legs. So these are the ones that are through wedged joints. And we did those at 16 millimeters, so that was 5/8. And then we did our arm posts. So we've got front arm post, back arm post, or crest post.
Yep.
I think we've actually called it crest post in the book. So it's the post that's going up into the crest. So we've got those two at the back, and they're the same size, and those were 12 millimetre.
They were.
What's that? Half an inch?
Half an inch, yep.
Bit less than half an inch.
Tiny bit less than half an inch.
And then we have got our spindles at the back, and these went in at 10 millimetres.
Yep.
What's that in inches?
It is 3/8 and a tiny bit.
Right, okay. So that's all of our holes. I thought it might be sensible to just have a little think about why these holes have been drilled the way they have been.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit about being wary of splitting off the front end with the arm post. A taper joint tends to be fairly strong.
Yes, you would set your hole back about 3 times, at least 3 times the width of the hole back from an edge.
Right, okay.
Which it doesn't look like on the front, but on the bottom, because it's the 12mm hole, we've got a lot more wood here than we've got here. I'm not worried about this piece of wood.
Yeah, great. So obviously, the hole does get closer to the edge as it's reamed, but underneath it's got that thickness there. Okay, so that's arms, and we talked before about you needed quite a wide board so that you can fit your arms on. You wouldn't need that if it was just a regular seat. So I suppose your regular seat would probably come in about this kind of size there. And then what we've done at the back here, we're trying to keep things fairly simple. So we're making the crest out of one solid lump. Rather than taking a thin bit and steam bending it, we're taking a 2-inch board and shaping it to that curve. So the curve that we've got at the back here is kind of defined by what we can fit into a 2-inch block. And that will make more sense when we're actually shaping the crest. But that's really our thinking behind this. We wanted to try and keep it simple, so these are all just drilling straight down. There's a real fudge that we do at the back here where the arm meets the crest post, and that's quite fun. That really was inspired by this old stick chair that we'd seen on the internet, which we'll have to try and dig that out from somewhere. I don't know whether...
I've still got it.
Have you?
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous.
It is nice.
It's a lovely chair, yeah.
It's not nicer than ours. No.
Well, we can't add age to a chair.
No.
Very nice because it's older.
No. Older?
Yeah.
Older.
Older.
Yes. Good. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. In terms of sequence, this can kind of be done whenever, right?
Yeah.
What we've done so far.
Yeah.
And what would be next on this?
The next stage on this is to start reaming the holes. But you don't want to start reaming the holes until you have made the right dry tenons on the pieces, because you fit the piece as you're reaming it.
Great. Okay, so basically what we've got is we've got all of our components made and they're dry. We need to then resize the tenons.
Yes.
After shrinkage, we maybe get some oval shrinkage on the tenons, so we need to just resize them so that they're nice, the perfect size, perfect taper, and then we can start reaming the holes. When do we cut the seat out and when do we carve it? Does that matter?
We'll carve the shape of the seat before we glue the legs in.
Right, okay, great. So next step, sizing tenons, and then we'll get on to reaming.
Yep.